Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Mixed Texan Report. I have an update for you on a video I did not that long ago about the McDonald's CEO saying he's having a tough time recruiting people to come work in Chicago because of the rising crime. Well, Beetlejuice has responded. Let's check out what she says. Beetlejuice being Mayor Lori Lightfoot. She says he needs to educate himself. We're going to read through this article real quick, and then we're going to educate Beetlejuice on her own city. Check this out. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot fired back at the CEO of McDonald's after he highlighted the difficulty rising crime in the city has caused for his business, telling him he needs to educate himself on the matter. I think what would have been helpful is for the McDonald's CEO to educate himself before he spoke, says Beetlejuice. McDonald's CEO warned in his speech last week that it was time to face facts, acknowledge that companies have been leaving the city for over the past year, and in part due to rising crime. The fact is that there are fewer large companies headquartered in Chicago this year than last year. There are fewer this month than last month, and he is absolutely correct. And this horrible mayor, this crazy-looking woman, doesn't know what she's talking about. All right, so here we go. Let's check out some numbers. If you want to check out the video I made before and see what I talked about there, you can check it out on the channel and if you want to catch up. But here we go. Chicago's deadliest year in a quarter century was 2021, with 797 homicides, the most since 1996 and 25 more than were recorded in 2020. Additionally, there were 3,561 shooting incidents in 2021, which is just over 300 more than were recorded in 2020, and a staggering 1,415 more than 2019. Unfreaking believable. All right, here we go. This is for you, Beetlejuice. Chicago on pace for 6 times as many carjackings as 8 years ago. This is a report here. Chicago carjackings are on pace to rise again in 2022 after already dramatic increases in 2020 and 2021, trending towards a number that would be 6 times higher than just 8 years ago. The data on Chicago carjacking through the years, and especially through the first half of 2022, serves as an unfortunate example of what happens when a city becomes open for crime, with no real deterrence or consequences in most instances, wrote WirePoint's senior editor Matt Rosenberg, who analyzed the 2022 data. Chicago is on pace for 1,960 carjackings in 2022, according to the data compiled by WirePoint, blowing through 1,848 records set just last year. The number will represent an over 6-fold increase from 2014, when the city recorded just 303 carjackings. Oh my goodness. Okay. The dramatic rise in Chicago in carjackings follows a trend that started in 2020. The number of incidents crossed over the 1,000 mark for the first time at 1,413, up 603 recorded in 2019. Okay, so it was up from 603. That was recorded in 2019. So there was an explosion in carjackings in 2020 on and onward. We know what happened in 2020. High-profile death of George Floyd. And it talks about this here. It says, certainly the protests and riots mid-2020 after the death of George Floyd followed a pattern of spiking violence that we've seen following past viral police incidents such as the deaths of Michael Brown and Freddie Gray. This pattern has been termed the Ferguson effect. Police pull back on violent crime spikes precipitously. Okay, so as we've seen across the country, crime has skyrocketed in major cities because of what happened with George Floyd. With the riots, that is. We had these riots going on in just about, L.A., New York, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Chicago, you name it. There were riots in Portland, in Seattle, and police have been afraid to either have police departments defunding their police departments. You have cities defunding their police. I'm sorry, or you have policemen just afraid to do their job because of the backlash they're afraid of getting for arresting somebody or pulling a gun out on somebody. That actually almost results in death of that police officer. I have some video for you to check out. This one is this is crazy right here. 22 armed robberies in 16 days in Wicker
The latest
Park.
in these nearly 24 armed robberies in.
Well, let's jump right into this video since it's playing right now.
Just over 2 weeks happened right here in the Wicker Park neighborhood near Wood and Division. People who live and work here say this kind of violence needs to stop. Not only do they feel unsafe, but it's ruining the reputation of the city.
Who wants that reputation? People are afraid to come, so it affects you all the way across the board.
So, real quick, what she's saying is really not that different from what the McDonald's CEO is saying.
Renters, vacationers, people are afraid.
Mary Ellen Setnar manages multiple properties in the Wicker Park, Bucktown area. She's having her property locks repaired after an attempted break-in. She says the recent violent crime is all too familiar. One of her tenants was robbed at gunpoint earlier this summer.
Gun put to their head, took all their belongings, their cell phone, wallets, keys, and fortunately enough for them, they took off.
In the past 16 days, Chicago police say there have been 22 armed robberies all over the north and west sides. That includes the latest 2 in Wicker Park, as well as this shocking daytime armed robbery on the 2900 block of North Sealy in West Lakeview. A woman thrown to the ground, her belongings taken by 4 people, all in broad daylight.
A lot of this stuff is out front. It's midday, well into the night, and it's a handful of people, generally the same type of crews who are doing this stuff.
32nd Ward Alderman Scott Wagaspak says this may be the result of 2 separate crews. And while he says they have the police resources they need in his ward, more must be done so that
fear is put into those criminals so that they feel consequences when they are arrested.
Barber and hairstylist Jasmine Scott says she's frightened. She works right across the street from the latest armed robbery in Wicker Park, but she has a safety routine recommended by police to everyone.
I leave and I look behind me and I make sure I'm not on my phone because, you know, being on the phone, that's the target.
In Wicker Park, Mark Rivera, ABC 7 Eyewitness.
So you saw that woman who's a barber in Chicago. There's no reason why she should be looking over her shoulder like this every night when she leaves work. I mean, it's good to be aware of your surroundings, as I am, even though I live in a safe town, a safe city. It's always good to be aware of where you are, but there's no reason why you should be forced to do so because of rampant rising crime, because there are so many people getting robbed day or night all over Chicago. It's pretty sad. It doesn't end there. I have more for you. Man robbed at gunpoint in Chicago alley.
Frightening moments in Bucktown. A man just getting done at the gym is robbed at gunpoint.
But Tia Ewing reports these crooks picked the wrong guy to mug. Tia?
Very true. He's a National Guardsman currently stationed in Terre Haute, Indiana, and was in Chicago this past week visiting family when all of this unfolded, and it was all caught on camera. 30-year-old Ryan King turned into an alley near the corner of Wabansia and Oakley to get back to his mother's apartment when a dark-colored vehicle.
And these are pretty decent neighborhoods that this is happening in. So it's not just happening in the hood.
Pulls up and 3 young men jump out. King says one of them pointed a gun right in his face, demanding his wallet. And moments later, he says a passerby saw the mugging unfolding and yelled. Instincts and his martial arts training kicked in, and that's when King hit one of the men with an elbow and ran off.
He held the gun up to my head. He showed it to my face, and then he went beside me, and he said, he said, "I'm gonna kill you, unless you give us your wallet."
That had to be terrifying. Police are still looking for the.
Unbelievable. I'm gonna kill you unless you give us your wallet. said the crook / scumbag thug. This guy came back from the gym, going back to his mom's apartment on a Friday morning or whatever it was, and got stuck up with gunpoint, you know? It's crazy. And luckily this guy was quick and he used some moves. He was able to break free of these idiots. Scary stuff. There's more. This is more about companies leaving Chicago. Large companies are leaving Chicago, and some are citing rising crime as a reason. Check this out. This is for you, Beetlejuice.
It was one of the reasons the city's richest man is leaving.
Billionaire Ken Griffin is moving his financial services company to Miami. NBC5's Lauren Petty in our control center with reaction to this big move. Lauren.
Well, we're hearing from people who are disappointed for multiple reasons. Ken Griffin's decision to move his company, Citadel, is just the latest blow to the state's economy after Boeing and Caterpillar.
It's very unfortunate. You lose the jobs, the economy, and the dollars that come with the jobs.
But the billionaire businessman has said he was having a hard time recruiting talent to work for Citadel in Chicago because potential employees were worried about their safety. But this loss, though, isn't just about jobs.
Do you see that? This billionaire, richest man in Chicago, said the exact same thing the McDonald's CEO said. He's having a tough time recruiting people to work in Chicago because they fear for their safety. So what is Lori Lightfoot talking about? I mean, what is she talking about? I have one more instance for you right here. Owner of 13 businesses pulled his company from Chicago amid rising crime crisis. Enough is enough. Gary Raybin, I think he ran for governor of Chicago. He did. He didn't win the primary this year, but he was running on a tough on crime, business-friendly agenda. I don't know who his opponent is. The guy who beat him is, but he's probably much better than the current governor right now, the current governor of Illinois. But anyway, this is what he had to say. So he owned a road paving. He owns a road paving company. He says, we would do thousands of jobs a year in the city, but as we got robbed more, my people operating rollers and pavers, we got robbed. Our equipment would get stolen in broad daylight, and there would usually be a gun involved, and it got expensive and it got dangerous. The additional cost of security and insurance meant jobs cost twice as many as they should be. What happened eventually is we said enough is enough. We stopped doing work down there. We stopped doing work for the gas company, the electric company, the south side, the west side, and eventually all over Chicago. Those companies now work in other places. They work over the border in Wisconsin, the outer suburbs of Chicago, where they feel safer. Look at this, an Aldi just abruptly shut down in the south side of Chicago. Look at that, empty parking lot, boarded up. This is because Lori Lightfoot is soft on crime. They have this woke, far-left radical DA in Cook County who is a Soros-backed district attorney. Some of the blame falls on the voters. Actually, a lot of it does. I mean, the people who voted these people in are to blame, or the people who sat home are to blame as well, but nobody should have to feel unsafe in their city or their town. Like I've said in the past, crime is a nonpartisan issue. Crime is an everybody issue, Democrat or Republican. Everybody needs to feel safe, and everybody needs to vote for candidates who are going to support law and order, because like the earlier video said, I played just a minute ago, it has an effect on everything economically. People don't want to live there. People don't want to work there. People don't want to visit. It affects everything across the board. Businesses leave. Economic activity goes elsewhere, and they come to places like Texas and Florida. So yeah, there you have that. It's very important to vote these people out of office and stop voting for these stupid idiots. Anyway, guys, we're going to end the video right there. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.